This is the Art and Literacy Workbook from Eric Gibbons and Firehouse Publications. It comes with a limited copyright agreement where the purchaser can put in their name, sign it, and then they have rights to make copies for their students. In the book, we cover a literacy rubric, pre-project writing, mid-project peer review, project reflections and critique, principal and element worksheets, Dada project, compare and contrast assignments, video notes, artist statements, letters to a famous artist, art news, art breakdown, art makes sense, poetry, the story of art, classical poetry explorations, art quotes explorations, a research assignment, and history story time assignment. So we do incorporate a literacy rubric that can be used. You can check all of these areas for student literacy, going from their clarity of writing, that they're on topic, that their sentences are simple to complex, depth, and how personal they are with their writing, grammar and punctuation. Now, sometimes I'm checking all of this for my students, and sometimes it's just one component. So it gives me sort of a touchstone of where they are and their growth throughout the semester. This is an unweighted grade, so it's just there for me so I understand that the student is growing in their understanding of literacy. So I have a pre-project writing assignment, so they describe the idea. How might I personalize the project so it's unique to me? What part of the project do you feel you will do well with and why? What part of the project do you think will be most challenging? And what resources can you use if you get stuck along the way? And who or what can help you? Then there's room for the students to sketch on the back. Another pre-writing is what are the requirements of the project? What materials will you be using? What techniques will you be using? What rules or procedures must be followed? Are there any safety concerns? And what connections can you make in this project to work you have done in the past? Then we have a mid-project peer review page. So describe the idea of your project, what is going well in the project, what are some specific areas that are missing, unresolved, or need more attention, what are some ideas you can use to improve the project, or what areas should you pay attention to as you move forward, and what resources can you use if you get stuck. Reflection 2, this comes at the end of the project, so title, media, explanation of the project goals, description, connections to self, community, culture, or traditions, my process, knowledge I had applied from previous projects to this one, something I learned or figured out while doing this, the most successful part, if I had to do it over again, I would, and I hope when others view my work that they have this understanding. A second project reflection is to describe the work as if you're talking over the phone. Describe the main elements that you use, so we're focusing on elements and principles. Describe the main principles. The peer, you're going to get a peer to put their name in and said the most successful part of my project was. Another peer suggested that if I had to do this over again, I should. And this is a formal critique to end a project. So again, title, artist, year. And you could use this for student work, but you could also use this for historical works of art that you want students to analyze, describe, analyze, interpret, and evaluate. Then we have an art principles worksheet where students would sketch a famous work of art here as kind of like a little stickman thumbnail. The artwork sample is called, so we give the title, it's by who. It is from the blank school of art, so if it's Impressionism or Cubism. Explain how the artist uses unity, contrast, emphasis, movement, balance, pattern, and variety. And then the same thing for the art elements with the tiny sketch, the name of the artwork, who it's by, school of art, line, shape, color, form, texture, value, and space. A day of Dada is a one-day sort of project where students find an item around the room or the school, and essentially they name it and justify it as a work of Dada art, and then there's a writing component that goes with it. So actually the project is more about the writing than it is about the object, because students could pick a light outlet as their sculpture. Comparing and contrasting assignments. So we have several compare and contrast pages that students can use. The first one includes no prompts, and as they work through it, each page has one prompt to kind of help them with their writing until we get to our final one where we can show the most amount of growth. And you can see more prompts as we go. Then we have our video notes section. These can be used for sub-plans, but if you're doing short videos like YouTube or Vimeo, then 5 facts and then sort of a synopsis. For a full period video, 20 facts plus a synopsis. And then it can be graded. I circle the 100 or put in the percent that they got complete. Then we have some framed up artist statements that can be done to be hung next to artwork, and then some smaller ones if you don't need as much writing. Brainstorming ideas, we have a page for that. Artist statements, first draft, and then you can do a final draft. Writing a letter to a famous artist, so we have a little research about the artist, and then we have a page to write the letter to the artist, making sure that we're referencing some of the research that we did. Art news, so we can take an article, or the students can find an article and answer the who, what, where, when, and why based on that. An art breakdown, again, who, what, where, when, and why. But this is breaking down a specific work of art, whereas the other one is more about news that kind of answers those questions. Art makes sense, so we look at an artwork and we describe what we see, if we could touch it, what kind of textures do we see there, what kind of odors might be connected to the artwork, what tastes might be connected to the artwork, and then sound. A phrasis poetry is a vivid description of a scene, usually a work of art, in the form of a poem. So students could name the work of art, the year it was created, the materials used to make, and then create a poem based on the famous work of art. Story of art, so you would take a famous work of art and pretend that it was an illustration for a story, who created it, the basic information, and then a story fragment. So it's not an entire story, it's just like a page out of a children's book or a novel, and the artwork is the photograph or the image for that particular story. So they're going to make up some story based on the artwork. So we have poetry in here as well. So like a famous poem, The Jabberwocky, students can see the entire poem. We can do a little writing breakdown of the poem here, and then analyzing the poem. So we have some writing about that. And then we have a page where students can create an illustration based on the poem. So they would pick one stanza and do an illustration, which could then become a full project. So again, we have this for many poems available, and then sometimes the poem is written in a smaller font with a large white area where students could illustrate around it. Again, this makes a really great sub-plan for students so that they can be on task, do a little research about the artist and about the poem, and then do an illustration around it. So we have quite a few of those. And then as we get towards the next half, we have famous quotes by artists or about art. So this one is by Yoko Ono. So art is an effort to make you walk half an inch above the ground. So students would actually do their illustration in the white space available, and then writing down what they feel like the quote means to you. Then there's a little bit of history about Yoko Ono, and find 5 more interesting facts about the author of the quote. So we have quite a few of those. Got one by Confucius, Georgia O'Keeffe, Keith Haring. So it goes on and on. We have quite a few pages of these. And then towards the back of the book, we have a research paper. So I do this one called Interview with a Dead Artist. We kind of play with the idea that zombies have come back to life and you need to find an artist zombie and interview them about their life. The nice thing about that is it becomes a first-person sort of interview, so I have less issues with students plagiarizing information. We got a list of potential artists, but there are obviously hundreds more. 50 questions that they could ask. And I even have a YouTube video to kind of help students through that process. And then the last one is a story time assignment where students find 4 to 6 famous works of art, and we use those as illustrations for a story that they're going to write. And these pages help them through, the characters, the setting, the plot, the resolution. These are the 4 to 6 illustrations, and then they would research the artwork, the artists with 3 facts each, write their story, and then we have a rubric included that helps you grade this assignment. So this is the Art and Literacy Workbook, and can help you incorporate more writing and literacy understanding to your students in an art classroom setting, or actually in an English class as well if you'd like to use art as a way to bridge their student understanding.